So I hope you can let us see the recording at least. Okay, let me just start it. Okay, so we already talked about various components of a C program. You can recall. So the components are the initial components, or the very basic components are these three things: variables, constants, and literals. Okay, so variables, you know what is variable. Constant is a special kind of variable which you cannot change. Variables are always changeable by default, but if you declare a variable to be constant, then you cannot change it. And how to declare that? Using the keyword const. Okay, these things I hope you have seen in the book. Okay, so slides are the slides you are getting are just guidance. Okay, the keywords are mentioned, the key things are mentioned, key issues are mentioned, but it's your duty actually to check the issues that are mentioned in the slides and go to the book, search that particular issue in the book, read in details. At least go to the Google Scholar, go to google.com and search the issue and try to study from there. Okay, but the problem is that if you in Google, if you study, then there is no guarantee that you will be landing up to a particular authentic content. Okay, because in the internet, so many people are updating, providing contents. Okay, nobody is giving a guarantee that this is correct or this is wrong. So we always depend on authentic content. But how to define which is authentic or which is non-authentic? So that's why there is a confusion always. We'll have to depend on Google. Google, if it finds that many people are citing a particular document, that will come first in the Google listing, and then you'll believe that this is the best document. So we'll have to depend on Google's way of making it authentic. But that may not be also completely correct. There is no guarantee in that. So in that case, we are always supposed to follow the books. The books are verified, checked by many people so far. Okay, and has been refined multiple times. So that's why books are actually best thing. You should read the content, read the particular issue from the book immediately after you complete a class. So variable, constants, and literals. So literals are something very interesting. They are some values basically. Say 3.14 is a literal, 2.9 is a literal. There are some issues called string constants or string literals. So those you will see later. So some issues are there which are called which are known as your character literals. Okay, so let us see some more examples. Yeah, so format specifying issue also you studied. Okay, why format specifiers are needed. But one thing you should also keep in mind, that format specification is independent, isn't it? That we can print a character.
Code workout and రాయాలంటే ఎందుకంటే మీకు అప్పుడే చెప్పాలి అప్పుడే జరగదు రాయాలి మూడు మారుతా ఉంటది మనం రాసే కోడ్ బట్టి చివరిది కూడా కన్ఫర్మ్ చివరిది రిటర్న్ 0 అని ఉంటది ఈ బ్యాక్ ఇది లాస్ట్ లో ఉంటుంది పీడిఎఫ్ జరగట్లేదు
వివేకానంద చౌదరి ప్లీజ్ యూజ్ ద మైక్రోఫోన్. Everyone, please mute your microphone. Otherwise, I'll have to search and mute it. Let me just mute everybody. So, as I said, that format specification is independent of the type of the variable or the constant or the literal that you are going to print. Okay. So we can print a integer using %f. Very interesting, right? We can print a integer using %f. So in that case, what will happen?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, what's the difference between signed character and unsigned character?
Yeah, wait a little bit. Wait. Don't jump. There will be lots of things will be discussed. Wait. So whatever you are concentrating, whatever you are discussing, focus on that. Don't jump it. I'll come to that particular issue. Okay, all the issues are there. There are so many issues actually. You cannot discuss everything, but those which should be discussed. Okay, otherwise you will be facing problem. At least minimalistic things should be discussed. Otherwise you will be facing huge problem. Those let me cover first, and then once the time comes, obviously I'm not discouraging about interruption. You can definitely interrupt, but just tame yourself, because if you interrupt too much, then the progress of the whole course will be actually not that much. So let me complete a particular topic first and then accumulate your questions. Ask your questions when I ask you to start questioning. Okay, better to use in that way. So let us first try to understand this independence of this format specification and the type. Okay, so this is the format specifier and the type. So natural question is that if I try to print an integer using a percentage f specifier, what will happen? Can I do it at all? Will there be any issue regarding compilation? Okay, will there be any compilation problem? Okay, so such type of things are always a question, right? So wait, I'm just trying to mute everybody. Yeah. Okay, so I'm saying that this independence you'll have to understand. So what I mentioned in the format specification part is not supposed to be same as the type of the variable, but has to be same to make it meaningful. Try to understand this particular sentence. We need to make these two things same to make it meaningful. Otherwise, it will also work if you don't do it same. There will be some situation when you need to make it same, make it different. Okay, intentionally you need to make it different. So there are many options, as you have seen perhaps on the book. There are many options. I will not be possible to actually cover everything explicitly. So you'll have to know it. You'll have to understand what are the differences. These differences are actually very simple differences, and mainly they depend on what? They depend on what you are trying to print basically. So this format is mentioning, is providing a kind of representation of the type of the data that you are supposed to print. But what exactly you are printing, that may not be matching with this exact thing. So for example, long int, if you want to print, that needs LLI. Okay, but you can try to print a integer also using LLI. So what will happen in that case? These questions you need to answer yourself. Okay, so in the next assignment, we're going to put actually question there. So just try to do random experiments. Like there are many possibilities, and there are many. There are many possibilities for format specification. There are many possibilities for type. So do some random arrangement and check what is happening, and report that in your report file. Okay. So we'll be discussing in the next lab. Basically, every lab will have to report. Just give me a minute. I have to take a call. It's coming from office. So yeah, let us resume. Yeah, so this experiment you'll have to do. In lab, I will explain once again that basically for every lab you are supposed to create prepare a report. Okay, so this time you didn't have anything to write as a report, but here there will be multiple observations. Okay, so those observations you have to write as a report. Like if you use in unsigned int as the typing as the type of the data that you are trying to print using printf statement. And then if you try to print it using format specifier like %f, what happened? Okay, so before going to that, obviously somebody asked that what are the meaning of this unsigned, signed, long. There are multiple modifiers you can see, like signed, unsigned, long. These are the common thing. Short is also there. What else you are seeing here? Yeah, these are the main issues. There are some others modifiers also. We'll discuss about them in details, but right now let me just point out few things. So there are two things like signed and unsigned, right? So signed and unsigned means that whether you need the sign of the particular number also to be represented inside the computer or not. So some cases are there. For example, your height. Okay, so if you are going to represent the height of a particular student, okay, if you are actually wishing to represent the type, the height amount for every student, so you need a computer variable for that, right? So in that case, the heights are not going to be negative, correct? Heights cannot be negative. So based on this physical intuition or kind of natural intuitions or natural physical properties of the particular variables that you are going to use, ultimately every variable is going to represent some physical quantity, right? So based on the properties of the physical quantity, we can understand, we can actually make sure that this variable does not need to be having the sign part. Okay, it will be always positive. If there is only one option that it should be positive only, then there is no need to represent that positive or negative issue inside computer, because you know in computer always whatever you represent it will take some amount of space. Even for the sign bit also, the sign also will be represented using a single bit. Okay, we'll come to what is bit, what is byte. That is unit of memory. Okay, so this we want to always optimize because we have limitation, we have hard limitation. We don't have infinite amount of memory, infinite amount of capacity, right? So whatever capacity we have, we'll have to exploit that, utilize that in a very nice way. Otherwise, we'll be running out of resources, right? So that's why we always try to optimize that if sign is not necessary, then we use this unsigned type of variable. So unsigned integer cannot store negative values. That is the ultimate take home. Unsigned integer cannot store negative values, and unsigned and signed are only used with integer. You cannot modify a float using unsigned something like that. Okay, float will be always having this component negative and non-negative. You cannot avoid that. So similarly, signed means that by default things are signed, but still you can mention it to be signed, like signed character. Okay, signed character means that a character has already 1 byte of representation. If you mention it to be signed, then out of these 7 bytes, out of these 8 bits, like 1 byte, 1 bit will be represented, 1 bit will be used for signed character. If you don't mention to be signed, like by default it is actually signed. If you don't mention to be unsigned, like unsigned character, then the full byte will be used for the data, for the value itself. So that means you have more options. Okay, we'll come to the issues that how these options are calculated. Like what is the maximum number, what is the least number you can represent using certain number of bytes. All these things are very important for you to know. Those things will be discussed. But now for the timing, you just try to understand the sign means that you don't have this option to represent the if it is signed character, if it is signed variable, then you have the option to represent the negative sign. If you are declaring to be unsigned, declaring a variable to be unsigned, and you don't have the option to represent the signed character. So you are supposed to represent only positive values. Okay. So signed and unsigned is clear to everybody. Now long. What is long? Long means by default integer, when you declare some variable to be integer, it's given at least 4 bytes of space. Okay. So now if you declare it to be long, because in 4 bytes it may not be enough. So say you want to represent a very big number. Okay, in that case, 4 values, 4 bytes will not be enough. So in that case, you need some more space, right? So that's why we go for long int. It will be given another 4 bytes, extra 4 bytes. Now, if you want to actually add more bytes, then you can use long int. Even triple long can be also used. So naturally, one question is coming that if you use a long variable, if you use a long integer variable, long integer variable, long integer variable. Okay, so how many longs you can add? First of all, you cannot add say 10 number of longs and make it a very long integer. It cannot do that. So there is a limitation also there. I know that there is a limitation of 3 longs. Okay, but you can check that. just declare a variable with 4 longs and check what is happening. These experiments, this I mean, writing wrong or right, you don't know, but doing these experiments is very necessary. Okay, just try to play with the computing system so that you get a good hold on it. Okay, say just I mean, knowing that how many longs are necessary is not mandatory for all of you. Okay, because most of the cases you will be able to do your job, do your programming quite well using a single long itself. Okay, but that's a curiosity, right? How many longs we can add together? What is the biggest number possible ever possible that can be represented using C programming? That question you can try to answer. Second thing, if you apply a single long, what is the maximum number you can represent using the single long? If you don't add the long, what is the still maximum number, maximum possible number or minimum possible number that you can represent? So these are the questions you should answer. You are going to answer in the coming lab. Okay. So you'll have to do some small experiments to understand, to find out this maximum value, minimum value. Okay, this you'll have to do. So get prepared for that. You'll have to do some study. I'll be giving enough things, enough theoretical base for that in these classes. But ultimately, the job has to be done by you. The code has to be written by you, consulting your books and with the TA interaction with the TAs and me also. But the things has to be done by you. The hands-on practical thing has to be done by you. Okay. So here in the slide, I have mentioned few things. Like if you have 4 bytes, okay, 4 bytes means each byte has 8 bits. So 32 bytes, 32 bits are there. Now using 32 bits, you can represent maximum this number. Okay, these 2 to the power 32 distinct states are there. So just try to understand a little bit about it. I'll cover these parts in detail in the number theory part. Okay, number theory section of this particular course. Float and double, that you know already. Float and double both can represent floating point numbers like the decimal fractions. Okay, all these things can be represented by both float and double. But the difference is that double is more precise. Like float is also known as single precision number, single precision fractional part it can represent, and double is basically double precision number. So definitely, if you have more digits after the fractional point, decimal point, then you can represent using double. Okay, float will not be enough for us after a certain number of fractional part, certain quantity of fractional part. Okay, so characters. Now characters are a little bit mysterious. So characters are basically integers. You have to remember these things very well. Character variables are basically integers. Okay, the only difference is that they have a different representation. Okay, so for example, if you declare a character variable to be say test is a character variable. So first of all, try to understand character is also a type of data. Okay, so character is also a type of data which you can use to declare different variables. Correct? Now, in case you use integer instead of characters, you can serve the purpose. You can do your job. Okay, but in some cases you need to have this representation of character. Okay, that we will actually try to learn now. A very important thing. Everybody should be very attentive in this part. Try to understand what is the difference between a character and an integer. So fundamental statement is that characters are basically integers. You can say they are very small integer, tiny integers. Okay. So already you know that there is a version of integer that is called short integer or short in short. Okay, in short you can call a short. Say short I. That means it's the short integer I. Okay. So that short integer also can be used to represent small integer numbers, both negative and positive. Characters can be also used to represent small integers. Okay, so there is a hard limitation in character. So when you'll be starting this number theory, you'll understand that characters can represent maximum 2 to the power minus 7 2 to the power 7 to minus 2 to the power 8. This range it can represent characters. So now if you mention unsigned character, then definitely the range is bigger. Okay, you are trying to exploit both the the sign part, the sign bit also you are going to use for the data part. So that will be obviously giving little bit bigger space, but integers are much bigger. As you can imagine, 2 to the power 32, that is very big. I mean, much more bigger than your characters, right? So characters are basically integers, but the problem is that we need to represent our keyboard, all these characters that are there, English keyboard, English keys, okay, English letters, okay, numbers, all these things are there. Everything has to be represented, printed in your monitor. So for that, you need some mechanism. Okay, so internally, just imagine what is happening internally when you are writing test is equal to, for example, just remove this thing. If I write, say, test equals to 1, it's quite a valid statement. I said characters are basically integers. So test is an integer variable now, and I'm setting 1 to that. But the problem is that what we are going to see inside computer for this character test, just recall this variable test is also given some memory space, correct? So that has been given a single byte of memory space, and inside that byte, the binary representation of this this value literal 1 is there, is put, right, is kept inside that. So what is the difference between this single quote H and 1? Since characters are integers, then character test equals to single quote H, this should also have an integer value. Otherwise, this will be wrong, right? I cannot store something different, like I cannot store a float value to character. Okay, if I try to store a float value inside a character variable, then things will be lost. So if it is going to be matching properly, if it needs to be matched properly, then it has to be an integer also, this single quote H, which we call a character literal. Okay, by this time you should know already that what is literal and what is the character literal and what is an integer literal. All these things we have discussed in the last class at the end, you can recall. So double quote single quote H is a character literal. Okay, and these character literals are also kind of integers. They have one integer representation inside. Okay, so when we are storing character test equals to character H within single quote, this means that H is internally converted to an integer, and that integer is going to be stored inside this test. That is the internal mechanism that is happening when you are writing this thing. When things will be compiled, ultimately test will be, these variables test will be storing the integer representation of this variable, this literal character literal H. So then there is a mapping between every character literal to an integer in a unique way. Without this, you cannot achieve this mechanism, right? So this mapping is called ASCII. I hope many of you know it, ASCII. So ASCII is a kind of code. It is called a code. We'll come to that. ASCII is basically, somebody can tell me what is the full form of ASCII?
American Standard Code.
Sir, American Standard Code for Information
American
Intelligence.
Standard is
Okay. I got it. Stop. So as you know, ASCII is representing American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So this ASCII coding will tell you that what is the internal representation of H, this variable, whatever I showed you, say this single quote H. It has one internal representation. That mapping you will get if you see the ASCII coding. Just in Google type ASCII codes. Okay, so you'll get all the different values for all the English characters, even numbers also, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9, 0 also. You'll get an ASCII coding. So these ASCII codes are stored inside this test when you write single quote H. Okay, now try to see this simple question. So enter a character and then %C, then ampersand CHR. CHR is a character variable. So basically you are trying to input a character using a scanf statement. So you are trying to input the value of the character using a scanf statement. Okay, and that's why you are using %c. You are trying to scan a character, right? So when you enter, when you try to read in a %d form, okay, when you try to read using %d form, it will scan for integers. But when you are trying to read using %c form, it will try to scan for characters. So whatever thing you will write, it will be accepted as a character. That means what? It will be internally converted again to ASCII, and then that value will be stored inside the CHR. So there is a big difference. If you try to read using %d, that will read the actual value. Say if I simply write %d and then &chr, and then if we printf, if we write first enter a character and then we just replace this by %d, what will happen? If I type 1, then 1 will be directly stored inside CHR. Okay, no conversion will happen. But if we write C here, what will happen is that if I write 1, then the ASCII value of 1 will be stored in the CHR, not the value 1 will be stored directly in CHR. Okay, so just a small experiment you can do, that you just remove this thing by D, okay, and run it, and then just type 1, okay, and then print. You'll see that 1 has been printed. There is no problem. But now if you change this to C and then if you try to print, then you'll see some value, some value is printed. Okay, although you have typed 1, but it is printing some different value. So that means that when you type 1, the ASCII value of 1 is derived internally, and that is stored inside this variable CHR, which you are printing in the next statement. Okay, so this is very important concept for everybody. Okay, this is a starting concept. You should know, you should understand, realize it. Okay, do some experiment in your home laptop and get convinced about it. So similarly, this program exploits these characteristics in a better way. Just see, we are scanning a character using %c, then we are printing the same thing, and then we are also printing the character, the ASCII value of that particular character in %d form. So the same thing, if you print using %c and if you print using %d, this will be different, although the variable we are supplying the same. We are supplying both x here and also here x, right? But the printing output will be different, because in one place we are printing using %c, another you are using %d. I hope this is clear to everybody. It's very simple, but if you don't understand it, it will be very difficult. Okay.
Sir,
Any doubt with anybody? Yeah, please go ahead with your doubts.
sir, in the previous
sir.
program, if we are
Sir?
taking in scanf using %d format specifier, do we have to output it also in the %d format specifier?
Can you just ask me once again?
Sir, in the previous program, sir, we were taking the input in the %d format specifier for
Previous program.
character variable.
Wait,
So,
when you are referring to some previous program, just ask me to go to the slides. This program you are referring or what?
yes,
Yeah.
sir, this one.
Now ask me which line you are talking about.
Sir, in this that scanf line, if we take the input using %d format specifier, will we have to output it also in the %d format specifier?
Why you are saying that we have to output? There is no restriction from your side, from computer side. You can output in any format whatever you want. I told you that these two things are independent. Can recall this %c, that is a format specification, and this variable, these are independent. If you want meaningful outputs, then only you'll have to make some restrictions. You'll have to restrict it. Say the meaningful output means what? It should match. Like if you want to scan using %c, provide a character variable. So if you want, say, %c to be output, then provide a character variable. If you provide, say, some float variable and you are trying to print using %c, things will be wrong. Now, whatever you are trying to ask is basically, if you try to scan using %d, then you will get the number, right? You will get the number, not the ASCII value. you will get the number from the value that you have printed. Say you are supposed to print, you are supposed to type in that case some numerical value. Okay, so that numerical value will come inside this character if the value is not greater than the maximum value that character variables can hold. You can recall character variables have limitations, right? It's a smallest variable size. So if you provide a value within that, then things will be correctly going inside this character variable, and then if you print it using %d, that exact value will come out. And next, if you print using %c, something will come out, but it will not be same as the value that you entered using %d. So what will come out? It's just apply a little bit of common sense, you'll get it. What should come out? It's a reverse process. Think of, we take something using %d, and then we are trying to print using %c. What should come out? We already discussed. Apply a little bit of common sense.
SQL.
Character of x value is given.
Yes. So there is wait, yeah, stop. So here the concept of ASCII is coming once again in the reverse direction, right? When you scan using %c, the ASCII value is converted. I mean, the value that you provide will be converted to an ASCII value, and that will be stored inside the character variable. Now, if you print using %c, the value that you are going to print, first that value will be checked in the table, ASCII table, that what ASCII character it represents. That character will come out, not the exact value. I hope it is clear to everybody. The value will be first checked in the table, ASCII table. Okay, and there it will be found if some valid characters is found actually for that particular value, then that character will be printed, not the value. Now it may happen that you have entered some arbitrary value for which there is no ASCII character. It may happen. So in that case, something garbage will come out. Some garbage value will come out. It may be say some mysterious mark, okay, some question mark, something like that will come out. Okay, you can try all these things. It's very interesting. So ASCII values are limited. As you can see, your keyboard has limited number of characters. So all these things you can count how many characters are there in the keyboard. You can count, and then you can also check that how many bits will be necessary to represent these values. Okay. Now the question is that if you go beyond that value, then something has to be coming out. It will be not defined, right? So some mysterious thing will be represented based on computer's own logic, okay, which will not be defined perhaps. But if you provide some value within the range, valid range, some valid character will come out. Say you know the ASCII value of the character capital C. Okay, capital C and small c will have a defined ASCII value. So if you in integer format, when you provide the value in integer format, if you provide the ASCII value of character C, then when you print it using %c, capital C will come out, because you know, and that's the way you have entered the values. Okay. So do some experiment, that things will be clear with all of you. For example, if I enter the character G, and when you print using %d, 103 will come out, %c, G will come out. Quite clear? Any other question with anybody?
So can you please once more explain the meaning of that format specifiers are independent of variables, constants, and literals?
No, the keyword I missed. Once again, voice is cutting.
So what is the meaning of that independence? Means that format specifiers are independent
Wait. Just take the
variables, constants, and literals.
Just take the example here. So if you want to print this A and B using %d and %a, nobody is restricting you in C language that you have to use %d here only and %a here only. If you want correct result, desired results, then only you should provide this. Say if you want to play arbitrarily, if you want to play and check what happens, then you can definitely print using %f also. Something will come out. Okay, it will not provide any compilation error. It will give a warning perhaps. Okay, you can check. So there are two things when you compile something. There will be two things. One is warning, and second thing is error. If there is an error, your compilation is unsuccessful. You'll have to correct the error and then you'll have to rerun the program. But if it is warning, not error, then your compilation is done. Okay, an executable has been created. You can run it. So when you make a mismatch intentionally, something like that, so there will be compilation warning, not error. So just check these things. Okay, something will come out. For example, here is no significant harm. For example, if I try to print a using %f, and a is basically an integer variable, there should not be a significant harm, because f will have bigger space and a will be lesser space, so it will be converted to a bigger space. That will be okay. There will be no loss. Okay, only fractional parts will come, but with 0 0 will come. But if you try to print b using %d, there will be loss. Some fractional part will be removed. Okay, so these things, that's why I said that you can use it independently, but if you want correct results, then definitely you have to match it properly.
Sir, in previous cases, like we are using, sometimes we are using and some variable name.
This is ampersand, not and.
Yes.
Just call, this is a special character in C language. It's called ampersand. I always mention it, ampersand. Okay, so ampersand A, ampersand B, and that's a rule. Whenever you use scanf, you'll have to add this ampersand character before this variable name. Okay, so there is a meaning, or there is a reason, very in-depth reasons are there why we need this ampersand, which will not be clear to you right now. It will be clear to you when you start pointers in the second half of the course. So for the timing, just recall this, remember this rule. Whenever you are using scanf, you have to add an ampersand operator before this variable name so that it works properly and correctly.
Okay,
Sir, ampersand is basically the address of the operator.
Yes, whatever address or whatever things are there, we'll discuss it later, because if you have done some advanced course or has done some already course on C language, you'll understand it definitely. But it's not necessary for this course that you should know C language and then only come here. So that's why I'm avoiding any discussion right now, because most of the students maybe will have problem, okay, in understanding that.
Sir, will we get the ASCII value when we try to print an integer through %c?
Once again, when you want
Sir,
to ASCII value,
integer value through %c format specifier.
you want to take an integer value using %c.
Yeah, if we print that using %c, so will we get the ASCII value?
I'm not getting at all. I'm not any program you are referring, or what statement you are referring. I'm not getting at all. Ask it clearly once again.
Sir, if we try to print an integer value through %c.
But I told you that integer value will not be printed using %c. Only character forms will be printed. But you can print numbers.
I was asking that will the ASCII value will come or not?
ASCII value will come out when you print using %d only, not using %c.
Okay.
But the mysterious thing is that, these numbers that you are seeing, the digits that you are seeing in your keyboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 9 and then 0, all these things are also having different ASCII values. So for example, the character 1, this 1 has its own ASCII value inside the ASCII table, right? So when you input using %c and type 1, you may think that I'm typing a number 1, and then when you print using %d, it will come out as a different value. It will not be 1. It will be some ASCII value of 1. But if you print using %c, 1 will come out. So don't get confused here, because ultimately these 0 to 9, these characters, these digits are also characters. Okay, these digits are also characters.
Okay, sir, got it.
Sir, what is signed and unsigned characters?
Yeah, I told you that signed and unsigned means that one bit in the beginning will be reserved for storing this sign part. Now, in case of character or integer, whatever, so if you don't need this sign bit, so if you are sure that we don't have this requirement, then you can define unsigned character. Okay, so signed and unsigned, these are just for facility purposes. Say we need natural numbers which are not negative. Natural numbers are not negative. No? It starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if things are natural numbers, then you don't need signed bits. If it is integer, the mathematical definition of integer, then it includes 0 as well as negative numbers. In that case, you need signed. Okay, so if you don't need signed, then you have the facility to use all the bits of the particular variable for data purpose. So you can enhance the utilization of the bits. Okay, I hope things are not so much clear to you right now, but have this notion, because this is the very beginning. When you go for this number theory and detailed representation of the numbers inside computer, you will get more idea.
Sir, unsigned means all the locations will be occupied by the character, and signed means
by
memory.
By the data part of the character, by the actual quantity of the character. Okay, not the sign or not the sign part. Okay, sign part also needs some space. This is the take home, that sign part, the negative sign or the positive sign, needs some space. Now, if we don't need that, if we always know that there is no other option, things are always positive. Okay, then you don't need to reserve the space for sign bit.
Okay, sir. So in case of characters,
yeah.
So in case of characters, what will be the significance of signed and unsigned?
Yeah, characters can be also negative. So if we want negative characters, what is the problem? So I told you that characters are also integer. So if we want to use this character negative small integers for some other purposes, we can use it, right? That facility is there.
So example of negative characters, sir?
No, negative characters, just try to understand. Characters are integers. I told you that characters are integers also. So if you want to use the character variable in the form of integer, and in that case, you are sure that your value range will be within, say, 120. So you want to represent the values minus 120 to plus 120. Okay, so why to use integer for that? Okay, integer will be wasting a lot of space. Just answer me this question. You want to represent the values from minus 120 to plus 120. You know that your values will not go beyond that. Okay, you want to play with these values. You are doing some calculation perhaps using that. So to optimize, okay, just recall, we always try to optimize things. So to optimize your program, you should not use an integer variable, correct? Because
yes,
will be allowing you to store and represent 2 to the power 32 number of combinations. That is not necessary. It's a very, very large number, 2 to the power 32. You'll be wasting most of the spaces of computer then, right? So in that case, in characters with sign facility is the best thing. Okay, we'll go wide with that. And character representation, there is no negative characters. Okay, or you'll have to check a little bit whether negative characters are there or not. I give you just an example where you may need to use this sign facility of the character variables. Okay, so all facilities are there. It is your duty to select which facility you are going to use, which is not. Okay, which you are not going to use. And that that basically defines how good programming you are doing. Okay, so for example,
Sir,
the same problem. Okay, wait, little bit wait. So here comes the difference actually, that how successful you are as a software developer. Okay, so the same problem statement, if I assign to say person A, person B, ultimately there are certain decision making process that these two persons will have to do to ultimately come up with a implementation. Now it may happen that based on the knowledge base person A has, person B has, the two programs, although correctly outputs the value, the person A's output comes very fast and does not take any computational, it's not actually visible. No lag is there, nothing is visible. But person B's outcome is actually coming correctly, but having lots of lag. Okay, just recall the difference between your, I'm not actually very much, promoting Apple, but Apple has these facilities. Like just compare between Apple output and a normal computer output. Okay, normal Windows output. There are lots of differences, visible differences are there. Okay. Those who are using Apple and already have used Windows laptop or Windows computers, they may feel the difference. These differences are basically the difference between the people who are coding, who are developing the software, right? So the take home is that you'll have to always optimize. You'll have to try to always optimize things, okay, and use the right set of facilities. All facilities are provided to you in programming language, but if you use all facilities unnecessarily in a certain program, then ultimately your program will not be usable. It will produce correct answer. Okay, Windows can produce correct answer. Apple can also produce correct answer, but when it comes, whether any lag is there or not, how usable they are, these things are vastly different in these two machines. Okay, this is I'm talking about from my purely from my personal view. Okay, it's not about promoting anything. Okay, fine. So yeah, let us proceed. So some more names and more components of the C programming. So what are the keywords? So keywords are basically predefined reserved words, has some special meaning to the compiler. Okay, and it's also part of the syntax. What is syntax? Also, that will also have to learn. What is syntax? This word syntax and semantics will come again and again to you. Okay, we'll learn about that. Now, what is a use of identifier? What is an identifier? Okay, so identifier, whatever you have learned so far, like this integer a, okay, float b. So I told you that every component of C language, every word, every character inside C language has a name particular. You have to know the name. So integer is a data type, right? Fundamentally, it is data type. But it can be also said that it's a keyword. It's a reserved keyword. Float is a keyword. Integer is a keyword. So all these things, scanf, printf, return, all these things are keywords. Okay. So keyword means that they have a special meaning to the compiler, C compiler. Now, what are these A, B, C? Do they have any common name? They have also a common name, which is called identifier. A, B, C, these variable names, literal names, or constant variable names, constant names, these are also called identifiers. Okay, so just check carefully. Identifier is kind of, it's a variable. All variable names that you can think of, it's an identifier. Okay, one is a variable of type int. Yeah. So take these examples. All this. I mean, there are many examples of keywords. You can have already used it. All these things are basically keyword. Whatever in C program has a special meaning to compiler, you can call it a keyword. Okay, an identifier is basically user defined. Identifier you can provide any name, but has some rules in definition of the variables. You can recall I told you the rules. Little bit about the rules. Like you cannot start a variable with a number. Okay, you cannot define a variable like 1 A B C. Because 1 is a number, you cannot use it in the beginning of the variable name. So some defined rules are there to follow the rules and define the identifiers. Now, apart from variables, is there any other identifier? Anybody? Like variables has a name, right? So that is called identifier. Similarly, later you will see the concept of functions, and then you'll also see the concept of structures union. So these also will have some identifiers. Okay, we'll see those things. But you should recall that identifier must be unique inside a given scope. So what is scope? This you will learn later. So provided a given scope, within that scope, identifier should be unique. Okay. So if I ask you in these two statements that what is the keywords and what are the identifiers, then the answer should be int and double are the keyword, and money and account balance, these two are the identifiers. Yeah, some rules are mentioned here. You can check the slides. Some rules are mentioned. You should go ahead with the rules. Some interesting things can be also defined, like in C programming, the variable names cannot be more than 31 characters. So if you provide two variable names having more than 31 characters, then how they will be treated? Will they be treated as the same variable or different variables? Say you have defined two variables having first characters 31 A's and then B. Okay, and the second variable you have defined first characters are all 31 A's, and then the second character is second character is say C. These two variables are different. Okay, these two variables are different from our perspective, but will they be different inside computer? That has to be answered. Wait, some call is coming from office. Let me take it. Yes, Akshit. Akshit, any doubt is there? Raise your hand.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, character variables can store the entered values in ASCII values in the computer memory. So, sir, how can it store negative ASCII values as ASCII values are always positive numbers?
Yes. Yeah. So to answer this question, is your question over? Any other issue?
So, one more question that
No,
if we do not declare.
Wait. Regarding this ASCII issue, any other problem is there, or this is the only question you are asking?
So, for this only
Okay,
this question.
let me give you a simple answer for this. So, first thing that you have to do is that you have to go and check the ASCII table. Okay, and also you have to know in character, if you have 8 bits, then how many different variables or how many different values you can represent. So as I said, the characters are of 8 bits. Fine. Now using 8 bits, you can represent certain number of values. If you are allowed to represent negative values, then the range is lesser, but includes negative domain also. If you have unsigned, then only the positive domain, but little bit bigger domain will be there, right? So these two values you have to know that what is my range in case of unsigned and in case of signed. Now, second thing you have to also know that what is the ASCII table? How many entries are there in the ASCII table? These things basically you'll have to do in the lab. Okay, you'll have to open your ASCII table and then do a thorough study of it. So once you know these two answers, okay, the answer to these two questions, you'll be yourself answering that why there is a scope for negative characters. So the simple answer to this question is that ASCII table is actually smaller, much more smaller than your character range. So still, if you don't have the requirement of negative characters, you have the scope. You don't use it. Okay, usually for ASCII representation, you don't use it, but you have the facility. Okay, that is a simple answer. So it will be clear to you if you see the ASCII table and check the number of entries, and then also you check that how many characters you can represent in character variable. Okay, give me a minute. Yes. Asking to send a scan copy. Yeah. So I hope this is clear to you as much as possible. Okay, things will be clear as you make your hands dirty actually in the lab and do some more programming and try to get that exact values. Okay, try to read some books. Okay, to understand the ASCII table, all these things. Okay. So fine. So we'll have to start the issue of operator. Okay, today. Yeah. So let us take a small break first. Okay, around 5 minutes or 7 minutes break. Let us come back at 11:11 and start this operator related issues. Okay.
So can you please show the previous slide?
Yes. This one?
Yes, sir.
Slides are shared. You can check that also from downloading after downloading.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, any doubt, any question? Just you can ask now. Otherwise, I'll take also a small break.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah, please
When
ask.
when we use char for like scanf with percent C, and we have to input two things. Like I have first inputted an int, and then I press enter. And it doesn't ask for a char value. It takes the enter part as char value. So how do I deal with that?
Yeah, the simple answer to this is that the second char, that is the enter character you are getting, will have to be also grabbed. Okay, so you can use a different two scanf statement to solve this in a very naive way. In a very rudimentary way, you can use two scanf statement, but ultimately the last scanf statement also will be having no answer. Okay, only the enter will come. Second solution is there, for which we'll discuss actually that how to avoid this issue using regular expression. Okay, so with this, within this double quote which are used with inside this scanf statement, you can tweak this double quote little bit. You can tweak the content of the double quote little bit to address this issue. Okay, the mechanical answer to this is that you just add a small space before the character, the percentage C. That will solve it. Okay, we'll discuss this issue explicitly in the lab once. Okay, once everybody faces this issue, everybody should face this issue actually, and then we'll discuss about it. Okay, your TAs also will explain this issue. It's a standard issue. It's a common issue actually, and you'll have to know that.
So sir, that
So what is
space
the
is like disregarding that one character.
Yeah, you'll have to undo the reading, or you'll have to read the thing in a different place, which should not affect your performance, or you'll have to ignore that. Somehow
So
you have to ignore
sir, if I start with if I have the first scanner statement as taking in character, and I add there space %C, then if I type two characters and press enter in the input stream, will it disregard the first character and take the second, or how will it will work?
2% C na, in that case.
What's
If
it?
you are trying to input two characters using %C, then definitely you are supposed to use 2% C's. Why one will work? Anyway, so this needs a practical counterpart. Otherwise, it will not be clear to you. Okay, so wait a little bit until the lab comes. It will be discussed explicitly.
Okay.
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 Sir, actually, I wasn't able.
syllabus for that, son?
What?
Sir, I wasn't able to join because of that internet issue. So up till now, I was using my friend's device to attend the lecture. So I was just.
But I told you, no, I cannot give you the attendance for this class because I am not going for this class. So whatever will come,
Your voice is echoing.
I'm saying that I have to download the attendance from the team and then upload that only. Okay, I cannot change it. So you'll be actually naturally you'll be absent in that class. So one thing can be done actually. Okay, so you write a mail to the faculty advisor. So don't write personal email. Just write through your CR. Okay, let the CR collect the issues and write to the faculty advisor, and they can, if he wants, he can send a mail justifying the matter. I can change the attendances. Okay.
Sir, through what? Can this be?
Through CR, through class representative. Your class
Okay, sir.
representatives are not decided yet. CRs?
No, sir. I don't think
No,
so.
sir, they haven't.
No, sir. No.
I think that will be decided very soon. I think that is very essential. These common issues you'll have to discuss with your seer and write a mail together. Okay. So anyway, when I'll be updating the attendance, just mention this issue. Okay, I'll be showing
Okay,
that
sir.
and then mention the issue. Let me just try.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so let me also take a small break.
Sir.
Okay, join back at 11 or 11:15. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk after that. Okay, let us resume. Okay, so the next topic that we are going to start is on C language operators. Okay, so as you know that everything in C language or any programming language will have to be done in a very systematic way. So all the operation related things are done using some operator. Okay, so we'll be studying the existing operator. Different types of operators are there in C language. We'll be starting the operator issue right now. So far, whatever things you have done actually in C language programming is simply about inputting and outputting. Now you are coming to the part where some sort of operations are also done. So inputs are to collect the data from the user, okay, and the outputs are to produce the data from the computer so that the user can see the output. That is for printf, and the previous one for scanf. The basic operations are done using printf and scanf. Other options are also there, you know. So beyond this, there are operations, right? Many different type of operations. So we'll have to know about how this manipulation of the data that you are collecting through inputting statements that you are going to do, and then output operations are performed to show the results, right? So then what are the operations we can do? Let us start with the simplest possible operations, which are the arithmetic operations. So there are many different operators. One, let's check the names: C arithmetic operators, C increment decrement operators, assignment operators, relational operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, comma operators. So we'll be going through this one by one. Now we'll be looking to the arithmetic operation. Very simple thing: plus, minus, star, slash, and this percentage. These 5 are the arithmetic operations. Okay, and the names are quite clear to all of you: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then this is called modular division, and it's called remainder operation also. So just an example. I'm going through this very quickly, as you already know all these things, and it's very simple, straightforward things. So how to exploit this? How to use this? Okay, in a program. Okay, so take the simplest possible program. Take 2 variables, 9 and 4. Set the values with 9 and 4 integer variables, and then take a third variable. The third variable is going to have this value of a plus b. So here there are 2 operations. How many operations are there happening here? How many operations are there? 1 operation or 2 operations?
So 2.
Yeah, the first operation is basically addition operation, plus, and the second operation is this equal to operation, that is the transfer of the variable, transfer of the value to a different variable. So here is the first catch, that we'll have to now distinguish all the components of a particular statement in terms of operations. So last time I said that a given program will be divided into multiple statements, right? Now in each statement you'll have to also isolate what are the different operations being performed. So here assignment operation is also an operation. Okay, in case of your normal algebra, we have seen you can easily just without any care you can transfer the value of x to y. Say x is equal to y. Okay, you can do that because you don't have any implementation. But here things are implemented in a particular device. So whatever thing you do, that will have some cost associated with it, because cost in terms of time it will take, in terms of some computation it will take, in terms of some sort of electronic operation inside the machine. So whatever. So this operation of transferring the value of the summation of A and B to C is also an operation in terms of computer. Okay, and that is called assignment operator. So A plus B is first computed. Okay, and that is the addition of A and B, which is the first operation done. And then a temporary variable is created, temporary value is created. That value is actually transferred to this variable C. So imagine they are actually kind of containers, right? As I said, that A and B are containers and C is another container. So A and B are containers. They have the value 9 and 4. Now you are using a third temporary variables, maybe say D, okay, or temp. So there you are storing the value of A and B, and then putting the value of A and B together and the plus addition operation after doing that to C. So one thing you should remember, when you are doing this a plus b is equal to c, c is equal to a plus b, you are not changing the original values of a and b. They are remaining the same. C initially had no value. We have not initialized C with any other value. So it will contain garbage value. It will contain some default, some any other value it may contain. So that is dangerous also. We'll have to discuss about it later. But when you are transferring the content of a plus b to c, now c contains a valid value, which is the summation of a and b, which is 13. And then you are printing what? You are printing the value of c. So just check here in this double quote, whatever you are doing is simply about printing the content of c, nothing else. All these things are actually fixed statement. They are not varying. So a plus b is equal to percentage d. When percentage d is seen by the compiler, it will replace with the content of c in this particular format specified with the help of this format specified. That's it. Nothing else will be done. Okay. So similarly, when you are writing c is equal to a minus b, the old value of c will be removed and it will be replaced with the new content. What is the new content? A minus b. So a minus b is a operation, negative, the subtraction operation, which is different from addition operation. Okay, and then it is stored to c. Similarly, a star b, all these things you are printing also, and a by b. So here comes the second issue, that if we use a by b, then definitely there is a chance that there will be some fractional component. What will happen with those fractional components? Definitely, since a and b both are integer, c is also an integer, fractional part will be lost. Nobody is going to take care of the fractional component in this particular operation. Okay, so the natural question is coming that how to preserve the fractional component in any operation, because if you lose the fractional component, the result may be actually drastic. I will give an example to you. Okay, so here the result is what? 9 by 4. What is the result of 9 by 4?
2.
4 into 2 is equal to 8. So actual value is 2 point something, but C will be storing 2 only. The point part will be missing. Similarly, C is equal to a percentage B. First 9 will be divided by 4 and then the remainder will be calculated. What is that remainder? 4 into 2 is equal to 9. Remainder is 1. So C will be storing 1 here. So the values will be printed as something like, I don't know whether I have the outputs or not. Yeah, I don't think I have the outputs. Just see the outputs, there will be no problem. Okay, just check the outputs. So you can run this program directly and check the outcomes. And the outcomes are very clear, straightforward here. No need to actually see the outcomes here. So is it clear to everybody what is going on? Okay, what will be the value printed by C here? The value printed by C from this particular printf statement will be 4 into 9, that is 36, right? Here it will be printed as 2, not 2 point something, because C is the integer variable. And here it will be printed as C is equal to 1. Any doubt with anybody? Check these things. Very simple thing. But the main problem that we noticed here is that the variables are, when you are doing such type of mathematical operation, we are losing the fractional part. If we stick to use only integer variables. So the other extreme solution is that instead of using these float variables, just remove. Don't use it float. Okay, don't make it float. So make it, don't make it integer, make it float. Okay, float A is equal to 9, float B is equal to 4. Okay, so now you do these calculations. So what will happen? Two float values will be dividing each other and the result will be also a float, and C will be the float variable, so it will be storing nicely. But what will happen here? The problem is that we are providing much more space than necessary. So what should be done? We are providing much more space than necessary. What should be done? See, if we
Sorry,
convert all
in
these
which part are
variables
we?
to, yeah, wait. So if we convert all these variables to float, then that will solve the problem. Correct? That will solve the problem. But that will be too much wastage of the memory space, because float will
Only we can
yeah
use a float for C. Only we can use float for C.
yes, these things only we are going to discuss right now. That if we use, we should try to understand actually what is the minimal change we should make here so that the answer is correct. So minimal change, you may think of that. Let C be the only float variable. Then the result will be stored in a float variable and things will be correct. But that is not correct. That is not actually going to work, because the problem is happening in this operation. When you are dividing two integer variables, the result will be automatically an integer. Okay, and as a result, what will happen is that you lose the fractional part. So although C will become C is the float variable in the modified version, the result that will be stored here is an integer, and then that will be again the same problem will come back. Only 2.0 will be seen. Okay, earlier you were seeing 2, now you will be seeing 2.0. So the fractional part will be missed out.
So if we make only one of them float, A and B, one of
Sir, percentage.
then it will work.
Yes. So if we make one of these A and B to be float, then the result will also become a float. Okay, and C has to be also float, because once you get a float value, you'll have to store that in a float variable. Then only things will be correct. So then the question is that, say if we have an expression of particular, say there are 10 variables inside this expression, A by B plus C minus D plus B into F, such type of things are there. Then there is a natural question: how many of these variables should be float so that the answer is correct? It depends on the expression, obviously. Okay, this thing will be there in your lab this time. Okay, you'll have to do that. You'll have to derive what is the minimum number of float which you should use so that the result is correct. Okay, result is correct means that the floating point value should be correctly displayed. Another interesting thing may happen actually. Just imagine that if you say divide by, imagine, let me just copy it and show an example. So imagine that instead of 9, here it is 5. So A by B will be what? In that case, it will become 0 basically. Or what? It will become 1, right? So if it is
1.
Yeah, so if it is 4, so 4 by 5 is a fractional value. And if you multiply that fractional value to some other bigger number, say you multiply this with say 100. Okay. So then originally it should become what? 400 by 5. That means 80.
80.
Yeah, but if you do it wrongly, like if you don't take care of all these issues, it will become 0. So many of you might be thinking that yeah, fractional part, if it is removed, then it will not affect in the computation at all. You are wrong. So check this example. If you make it incorrect, like if you don't use the floats, integers in right places, then you may have a lot of difference in the ultimate results, because some fraction will be made 0 fully because of this mistake, and that 0 will be multiplied to some bigger number perhaps. The ultimate result will become very 0. Okay, so you'll have to take proper measures, obviously keeping in mind about the optimization, that what will be the best or least number of float variables which you should use to preserve the correctness of the result, as well as precision of the results. Floating point part should be there, or the decimal fractional part should be there. This you'll have to balance these things actually, and you have to answer some questions also in the lab based on these issues. Okay, so mostly mostly you'll be doing what? Will be solving formulas. Will be some formulas will be given to you, and the formula, you'll have to calculate something. You'll have to derive some value from a set of values. Okay, some set of values will be given to you, and based on these variable values, you'll have to calculate some other values. Now your job should be to declare these variable types in an optimal way, as well as the result should be correct. Yeah, what is the question?
Sir, what if we
Sir,
divide
int and float
by b and then multiply it
both
with a?
have 4 bytes of
It's
size.
0 rating.
Just ask only one person. Once again.
Sir, what if we divide 100 by b and then multiply it with a? Then will we get 80 or 0?
If you divide 100 by
b in the 11th line.
same formula defined by 100 by b. Okay, and then
Multiply it with a.
so you are writing this formula basically, right? So the same formula you are writing in a defined way. So in that case, 4 into 100 by what? 5. So it has become 80.
Yes.
It's correct.
This time we do not need to say it float. Only we can use int here.
Yeah, it's correct. So using integer only, you can get the right result. That is quite fine. But just check, then for every such operation, you'll have to be carefully modifying the formula and doing the operation. Okay, so you'll have to modify the formula accordingly and then you have to get the result. So that's a headache. So if you have some arbitrary formula, you'll have to rearrange the formula in a way so that it does not hamper the correctness. Okay, even using integer variable, that is quite possible. But who knows, this value is going to be 5 only. There may be some fractional part coming out of this division, which may be lost. So this is a specific case where you can rearrange these operations and define the sequence of happening. Then you can get a correct result. But that is not a generic understanding because it's not a generic rule. Because you may have some different values here, which may lead to some fractional pattern. And if you don't use float variable, that will be lost. Is it understandable?
Yes,
so
sir, yes,
for a given situation, you can somehow manage, but you need a generic rule. Okay, you need a generic strategy for doing so. Okay, so there is one rule actually which you'll have to apply. Say, given an expression, this rule you'll have to search in your book and find it out. It's explained in every book in the beginning, in the first chapter or second chapter. Just search it. So listen to the rule first of all. So when you have an expression, okay, let us take an expression and explain that. So these are expressions. Okay, so b is equal to b minus c, a is equal to a plus b plus c. Okay, some other expression can be like say b is equal to c into b plus 5 by c. Okay, plus 7 by a plus b. So there can be any. It can be a generic expression, whatever expression you need, for example, to solve a particular mathematical problem. Okay. So in this expression, the result will be integer or float. Who will decide that? How it will be decided whether the result will be calculated as a float number or an integer number. So what are the things we have? Say we have character, we have integer, we have float, we have double, and you can add these modifiers also, long, short, all these things. Okay. So here is a hierarchy. Okay, so there is a hierarchy of this data. So character is coming in the lowest part of this hierarchy. Okay, then integer, then float, then double. Okay, I'm not sure about this long and short part, but try to understand these 4 things first. And after that, you can search and check about these long and short modifiers, whether they are also included in this hierarchy or not. That you'll have to search. So think of these 4 data types first. So there is a hierarchy. And what this hierarchy is used for. So the use is something like that. In an expression, Okay, if you use at least one of this float, then the whole result will become float. So for example, C is a float and D is a double. D is a integer, but C into D will become float because C is a float. So at least one will have to be float to make this unit or the whole expression to become float. So similarly, if you use all characters, say all are character variables, then the result will be character. All are integer, then the result will be integer. If some are character and some are integer, the result will be integer. If some are float and some are integer and some are character, the result will be float. Similarly, if at least one is double, then the whole result will be double. This you have to remember and understand carefully with some examples from the book. Okay, you are going to study this particular result, particular issue from the book. This will be very much necessary for you to understand to write the correct combination of this float and integers and other types of data, character, integer, float, double, so that the result is correct with minimal number of larger size variable. Okay, but just carefully note down that this does not solve the problem. This does not solve. This rule is there to make you aware about the issues that if you combine a float and integer, then the result will become float. But ultimately, the division operation or something where there is a truncation, the possible truncation. Say I want to make this truncation. I want that there should be no truncation. What I should do? Can I make sure that say D is a float? Okay, say D is a float value. So can I make sure that 5 by C will be correctly done in that case?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Say 5 by C. C is an integer and 5 is also an integer literal. Okay. D is a float. C is a integer. So definitely this part will be float. But will that part will be also float? The division will be float division.
No,
So,
sir.
yeah, try to understand this question first of all. It's a very serious question actually. You'll have to understand it, that whether you should make this C also a float, otherwise this part will be wrong. Okay, so I'm not answering this question. You are going to search this out. Check this in your program. Okay, we are going to answer this. Tomorrow you can discuss.
Repeat the question once.
Yeah, the question is very simple. Say, take this particular example. Okay. In this example, imagine C is a float. Sorry, C is an integer. D is a float. 5 is the integer, you know. So the division between division 5 by C will be correct. That is a question. Correct means what? There is a possibility of incorrect division, the loss of the fractional part. So will that happen in case of 5 by C? Or because of D is a float, the whole thing will become float and things will be correct. As I already said that in case of a division, if at least one of the, in case of a expression actually, in case of an expression, if at least one of the adjunct literals or variables, if it is actually float, then the result will also become a float. But does it imply that 5 by C will be also correctly computed? So as I said that this
Sir.
rule, as I said the rule, this rule will have to interpret it properly. That is the main target of this discussion.
Sir, what do you
Sir,
mean by
here how we are sure that the program will multiply C and D and 5 by C, whether it can be D plus 5 also?
Correct. So here to understand this full issue, you'll have to learn another thing. Okay, so that scope I was trying to create. So good that you identified that there is another issue which you don't know yet. That which one will be executed first, which one will be executed after that, in that sequence. What is the order of this execution? That you have to know. So this is a related issue actually. It is not exactly needed to answer this question, but it is necessary to make your knowledge complete. So there are two issues. One is called the sequence. Okay, the sequence of the operations. And the other thing is associativity. Okay, the precedence and associativity, these two are the formal names. Precedence and associativity. When multiple operations are left in this way, and there is an option that you do this first and do this first, then which one computer will do? You know, computer cannot do anything in a confused state. If you want something to be done by computer, it has to be very, very specific. Then only computer can do that. If you make it confusing, then computer will not be able to do that. So computer also has an internal rule that if you have this confusing situation, that which one will be done first, because computer does it sequentially, right? So computer will have to do this first, or this first, or this part first, or this part first. Something has to be done first, and then things will be computed. The next part will be computed. This way things will be evaluated, right? So you have to know that what is the rule that governs these answers. So these are called precedence rules and associativity rule. Okay, so precedence rules tells that when multiple operations are clubbed together, which operation will be executed first. Second thing, when same operations are actually repeated multiple times, in which order it will be executed. That is the associativity rule. Okay, so associativity defines the order between the same operations, or defines the order between the operations which have same precedences. Okay, and precedence rule defines the order between multiple different types of operations. Okay, in particular in a hierarchical order. So these issues like the rule of, I said that a hierarchical organization of the data types, hierarchy of the precedence, and associativity, these are some very important concepts which you have to clear step by step. Okay, so I hope the question is clear to all of you, that the doubt, where is the source of the doubt, where you should be very clear, very carefully writing the code. These issues are clear. Now, obviously, you have to make it, the rules you have to know more, and then make more examples so that it becomes clear. So let us proceed a little more in this direction. These are just examples. I already described it. So everybody is going to answer this question in the next class. Okay, you can discuss as much as you want in the next in tomorrow's tutorial with the TS, but you'll have to make this very clear. Okay, I'm not going to make the answer clear to you right now. You'll have to think more. If I just answer it right now, you'll not take it seriously. So study the book. Okay, search the chapter properly and make your answers ready. Yeah, so similar issues are there in this formula evaluation also. For example, if you want to evaluate this Fahrenheit and centigrade. Okay, so imagine that you have been given a formula. Say CY5 is equal to F minus 30/9. You are given a relationship between two scales, right? C scale and F scale. So there is a known relationship, you know, F minus 32/9 is equal to C/5. So based on what this is derived based on the concept that 1 degree. What is the concept of this division? Can you just tell me? Can anybody tell me based on what this formula is coming?
So based on the gradient, sir, like means if we go to the core, sir, from where it is derived, sir, initially we write, sir, C means any value C minus 0 by 100 minus 0 is equals to F minus 32 by 212 minus 32 from the core gradient concept, sir. I think so.
No, it's not so difficult to understand actually. Just recall your physics.
Sir, it is boiling point temperature minus melting point temperature by number of divisions.
Yeah, no, I'm asking the basic concept based on which this. What is the basic physics concept based on which the formula is derived? It's
Sir,
not coming. Just I'm asking for my curiosity whether you know or not.
100 divisions in Celsius scale is equal to 180 divisions in Fahrenheit scale.
Why?
It's defined like this. The units are defined.
Why it is defined like that?
Boiling point and freezing point of water, sir.
Just give me the physics statement based on which it is defined. What is the, because things are basically representation of physics, right? What is the physics here?
The units are being converted.
Sir, they just found out two temperatures in both scales which were equal, and then.
Okay, fine. So I'm not going to discuss the physics issues here, but I'm seeing that things are not so much clear. Okay, so there is the physical process. You'll have to recall a little bit, and then yeah, just study that. It's not so clear to me. Your explanations are not so.
Sir, boiling point and freezing point of water are constant, sir. So
Yeah, that is one of the starting point. Definitely, that is definitely a starting point to answer this question. Whatever I asked. Fine. So let us come to the programming side. So in your real life, you will get a lots of formulas like okay, based on whatever stream you are in. Say you are in electrical or electronics or computer. Okay, in computer science, basically you are going to deal with such type of things only. But in other disciplines like in metallurgy, mining, whatever disciplines you are from, so there will be many formulas, right? These formulas are basically representation of some physical process, some physical events. All these things are represented like in a mathematical formula. So ultimately, you need a correct conversion. Okay, you should not miss a single precision also. So these things, like it's the starting point here. You just convert a centigrade value to Fahrenheit value correctly without missing any fractional part. Okay, so that's the thing we need to learn, how to convert these formulas and use the right combination of float, integer, double, whatever you want, and then you get the correct value. Okay, the best policy is that you all make it double. Okay, all variables you make it double and then use it. Okay, but still, if you don't know the issues, then still there will be problem because some literals will be there also. Now these literals also have to be formatted properly. Otherwise, there will be issues. Okay, so these things, that's why you need to learn carefully in the first parts. So here we try to convert, for example, centigrade to Fahrenheit, okay, or Fahrenheit to centigrade. So here we are getting a centigrade value, and then we are converting that to Fahrenheit value. Okay, so given a centigrade value, so for example, in your lab, we ask like, given a centigrade value, user will give a centigrade value to you, and you have to convert. You have to print the corresponding Fahrenheit value. Similarly, some other expression will be given to you. Based on that, you have to calculate the derived y value. Okay, x values, say x1, x2, y, x2, x4, all these values are provided to you. You have to find the y value from these things in general. So first of all, I will write the correct formula or the formula in a correct way. Formula is definitely correct. You have to write in a correct way, considering the C programming issues. Okay, and then only you will get the correct value. If you write it arbitrarily with arbitrary integer or float combination, you'll get wrong values. Okay? They'll have to show that you can easily get a wrong value, like C by 5. In case if you don't make proper precautions, take proper precautions of this variable. Please mute your microphone.
అది మొన్న మేము చేసాం కదా అసైన్మెంట్ అది ఋషికేశ్లో దేనికో పెట్టాడు నాకు.
So yeah, so here just an example given here. If you
sir, in the last example we are finding C in terms of F or F in terms of C. However, if something is not given explicitly, if we cannot find something explicitly, then how can we ascertain whether the order of operation will be like this or that?
I'm confused. What you are trying to ask?
Sir, in this case, we can just shift the 5 and find the f in terms of a function of C like this. However, if something is not given explicitly, suppose in mathematics there is a circle with a formula a cos theta with a parameter, that is, it is not given explicitly. We cannot find the variable.
No, I'm still not getting the right question. Perhaps maybe let me just try to understand. You're perhaps asking that the value of C, if it is not known to you, you'll not be able to answer what is the right combination, something like that you are asking, or what?
Sir, you said that suppose we are given an expression, the formula, the first step will be to convert the formula in a way of capital F equal to a function of capital C.
So function of capital C, basically we need to write this expression properly. Okay.
Yes. However, if we cannot write that expression,
but we should be able to write the expression, right? So what formula we are going to deal with, that you should know. Why you will not know that? If you don't know the formula, then you are not in a state of programming.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I understand.
Sir, do we have like the mathematical operators like trigonometric operators like sine, cos?
Yeah, all these things are there. Those are not operators. Those are functions. Okay, those are functions. You'll have to at the end of this course, you'll have to derive these functions also. Okay, everything is there. Right. So this is just an example. If you are converting in this way, then if say the value of C is equal to 5 and the value of F is equal to correctly calculated 41.0. So just an example that you already discussed. It is given here as an example. So if something is lesser than 5, okay, up to 5 it is fine.
Sir, sir, can I say, sir, I have got an example. Sir, suppose if we have an equation like e to the power xy plus sine xy equal to 1, where we cannot find the value of y in terms of a function of x.
No, you are not talking about an expression basically. You are talking about a complex function. Okay, so functions like e to the power things are functions. So if you go to these complex functions, I will not be able to explain it right now because
okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
So bring some example in this form, simple expression, not considering those complex operations. So as I said, that's why I said in the beginning that we have only 5 operators in C. These are the basic operators. So bring something which are related to this first.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Then gradually we'll make it complicated. Okay. Fine. So then this is the situation. Like if something is bigger than 5, then fractional part will be truncated. Something is lesser than 5, then things will be 0. Okay. So huge difference will come if you don't properly give the floating point or things. Yeah, the same questions are actually asked here. The slides are shared. You can read the slides and try to understand what problem I'm talking about. Okay. Yeah. So this will be the topic in the coming tutorial tomorrow. Main topic of discussion tomorrow's tutorial. Have a discussion in details with the TAs and try to frame your answer. They don't take it in a simple way. Actually, this is really a very serious issue. For the first 2 weeks, you should have a quite clear understanding about how to frame a formula so that you can get the correct results. Fine. Fine. So can you just tell me what will be the solution here? Quick solution for this particular formula, how to represent it correctly? So you'll have to identify what are the places where there can be some issues, where can be there can be some truncation of the fractional part. Obviously the C by 5 part, right? So C by 5 part you'll have to be carefully writing. How to write the C by 5 part carefully so that you get the correct result there. So the simplest possible answer is that make 5 to 5.0. So 5 is a integer literal, whereas 5.0 is a float literal. Now, as I said, the rule is saying like that in this expression, if anybody is float, if any one of these is float, then the full expression will become a float. Okay, the result, the division will be also a float. So this division operation will become a float. So the question that I asked you earlier is basically pointing to this issue that the rule is about the full expression or is it about the particular operation? So in this c by 5, if both are integer, it's an operation, right? It's a division operation. Okay, expression is the combination of multiple operation. So shall I assume that if any one of these contents entities like 32, 5, c, 9, if any one of them is float, will the full result become float? Or the question is about an operator. Say c by 5 is an operation. So in this operation, there are two variables or two constants or two determinants. Any one of them, if it is float, then the whole result will become float. And the whole result means that c by 5 only, not the full expression. These things you'll have to make it clear from reading the book and discussing with the TA in the next tutorial tomorrow. Okay? Is the issue clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Can you say again? Yes.
Yeah, so I'm saying that you want a correct answer here. So if you want to get a correct answer, making 32 to 32.0 like float detail will not be enough. Okay, so we want to go to this particular place where the problem arises. The problem arises here in this particular operation. So in this operation, you want to make it correct. You want to get a correct result. If you want to do so, then you have to make at least one of them float. Okay, 5.0 is a float. So in that case, the c by 5 will be as a floating point division, and then things will be correct. Okay, so this way just try to understand the result and try to understand the rules also. What are the rules? So, and that would also tell you that what is the minimum number of float variables you need to use it so that the final result is a correct result. Okay, fine. I hope things are mostly clear to all of you. Rest will be clear tomorrow after the tutorial is over. Okay, so let me quickly download the. Yeah, just wait. I'm exhausted with the time, so just let me download the attendance and then we'll discuss if necessary. Wait. Download attendance list. Fine. C is equal to this is lecture class group 1. Okay, so group 1 I can see Amal Nambiar 35 is not there, absent. Amal Nambiar is absent. Then Karthik Reddy is absent. Karthik Reddy, roll number 36 is absent. CS 36 is absent. CS 35 is also absent. Others are all present. So I'll have to upload the attendance 4 times. Wait. 6th of thing, and then the time is 10 to 11:1, 10 to 10:55. Once again. This is same thing for the next hour. Nine, 11 to 11:55. Okay, group 1 is done. Number 2, group 2. So group 2, let me tell you who are present and absent. Group 2, everyone is present. Yeah, group 2, everyone is present. Correct. So 6th of December, 10 to 11 ones. Okay, another thing. Group 2. Everyone is present. 6th of December. 11 to 11:55. Okay. Fine, it's done. So tell me if any doubt is there further.
So what is the syllabus for mid-sem?
Hey, wait, let us cover a little bit. Okay, after that you ask this question. Okay, we have just started. Okay, so let us cover some more classes and then towards the middle we'll discuss about the syllabus of mid semester. Okay. Anybody?
And sir, can you please go to the arithmetic operators slide?
Yeah, tell me.
So the next slide in which, yes sir, this one. Sir, here int and float, both the data types have 4 bytes of size. So there should be no optimization issue if we use all the variables a, b, and c as floats.
But do you know integer and floats are same? Both are same?
No sir. So they are different, but their size is same.
Size is same?
Yes sir, both have 4 bytes.
Are you sure about it?
Sir, 99% I'm sure, sir.
So just type in Google float size in C. So float size is saying 4 byte and integer size is also 4 byte, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so unsigned integer type is 4 byte, integer type short is 4 byte. So the problem is that just try to understand a little more about this float and integers. Float, integer, or any data type which are being used. First issue is that their size, there is no actually universal definition that we'll be using 4 bytes or we'll be using 8 bytes for something or not. There is no universal definition. This definition depends on the implementation of the compiler. So as you know, the compiler is the entity who is converting our message, like our program, to the hardware language, like machine language. So that means machine language should have that specification that how many bytes we are going to assign for float or integer. This conversion is being done by the compiler. So compiler is actually free to assign the number of bytes. So you should check one thing, that the size of an integer in GCC compiler. Okay, size of integer in GCC compiler. They may be also same, but that is not the issue. Just search in size of float in GCC compiler. It is also 4 byte coming. So now the second issue is that in case of float, in case of floating point variables, it's not only about your size. Okay, floating point operations are much more complex than integer operations. So floating point operations needs the fractional part as well as the integer part to be handled separately. Okay, and their operation like floating point multiplication, floating point divisions are obviously much more complicated than your integer division or integer multiplication. So second question definitely coming is that if I can do the same operation using integer multiplication or integer division, which is very simple in terms of complexity of the hardware. Okay, so why you should go for floating point operation? Optimization comes from two sides. One is the size of the float, size of the variable. That is the easiest way to understand the optimization. Like if we have 4 bytes and 8 bytes, the difference is very clear. I can understand why to go for it. But the second issue is coming from the complexity of the hardware circuitry that are going to be involved when you call some operation. Okay, so that is the second most important difference which is there in between float and integer. So obviously, if we want to do some operation and it can be done by integer, we should go for integer, should not go for float. Okay, is that clear to you?
Sir, what are the complexities in the operations of float values?
Yes. So here, this answer exactly is there. And if you are a CS guy, you have to wait for the next semester. I think in the next semester there is a course DEC, which is not going also to clear you how division is done in C. Division is done in computer. You'll have to wait for computer organization architecture course. There, the division circuit will be explained to you. Okay, then only you can understand where is the division, what is the difference between integer division and float division. Okay, but there is a huge division in the division in the complexity of the hardware. So these things will be clear to you if you just try to see how integer is represented inside the computer and how float is represented inside computer. So float representation is definitely more complex than integer. Okay, for natural reason, right? We have to deal with the floating point values, the fractional part, which is not there in integer. So complexity is naturally there. Okay, so try to understand from this viewpoint. Fine, it will be clear to you.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys. So let us stop it here. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow in the tutorial classes. Okay, as usual in the different channels, as you have said already, and have more interaction with the TAs. Okay, there should not be any hesitation. Your TAs numbers, mobile numbers, you should exchange and have clear-cut discussion with the TAs. Don't hesitate at all. If nothing is something is not clear still, come to me in your in a general channel. We'll discuss once again there. Okay.
Sir, as our quarantine is over,
So where will we see, sir, the marks of last test, sir, which DS took, sir, assignment?
Marks will be available. Wait, so I'll be sharing on Google Sheet. There the marks will be available. And something someone is asking regarding the quarantine period. So I think there will be explicit instruction to you when your physical classes will start. My understanding is that from next week, I think the whole thing will be starting in physical mode.
Yes, sir.
This week labs will be online.
If no instruction comes from Dean, it will be going like this only. Okay, Dean will instruct. We'll have to wait for Dean's instruction. Fine then. So let us stop here. Let us end the class. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
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 Thank you, sir.